Increase. So this award lets me know that
good morning. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Il fait chaud, mais ça va très bien. Ça va bien. Ni hao, hola, bienvenue, wan ying, bienvenidos, bienvenita, benvenuta, namaste, and welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemmological storyteller. And each and every week, I get the unique and magnificent opportunity to take the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry, and put them all together into a story. Over the past almost 20 years, and literally each and every week I do this show, I discover that many of the same attributes, the same characteristics, the same things that make gemstones and precious metals special, it's the same things that's inside of you, inside of people. So what I do is I take those gem stories, those precious metal stories, and I use them as a template, as an inception point, as a seed, and as a bridge to help people, to empower people, and oftentimes to remind people of the value of their own stories, of who they are, and how they resonate with others, how they interact with the light. Thank you, Barbara. Each week when I do the show, one of the most amazing things about doing this show every week and for almost 3 years now, and I really want to thank all of you for being here. In fact, I want to take a moment to thank and welcome my team, my Petanque team, Tele Bulls. Tele is the town that I live in France, and I'm a part of their team. So it's really, really cool to be there. So welcome, and welcome to all the new guests who are here. I've been getting wonderful emails, texts, subscriptions. Thank you so much for being here. And one of the things that make this show so amazing for me is that your comments, your texts, your posts, you make me think differently. You make me literally do what I'm asking all of you to do each week when I give you your homework assignment, to take a moment to discover the value, discover the value of your story, of who you are. And in order to do that, and I'm not saying it's easy, it's not, but let me help you. I decided that this show, I want to show you kind of in real time how you begin to do that. Discover the value of your story. Because when you have to do, when you're an appraiser, what you have to do is you have to step back. You have to step back and just look at something, look at your life, look at that piece of gemstone, that piece of jewelry, and say, what is it? The key words is discover the value of your story. Not my story, not the person down the street, your story first. Discover who you are. So basically what I do in my workshops, with my students at school, I teach middle school, high school, mostly middle school all around the world. I do workshops, I do keynote addresses, but basically it's an appraisal. I approach it as the way I would approach gemmology, a gemmological appraisal, because the first thing I have to do is figure out what the story is, and the only way I get to the value of it is I have to figure out the story. I have to figure out what is its value, what is it worth. So an appraisal. First, do an appraisal. I step back, look at what it is, and then I ask, what is it? What is it? What is it that I'm looking at? See, I can't make the assumption that just because it looks like a certain thing that it is. I can't do that. Not as a professional appraiser. I can't do that because I know all the different imitations, synthetics, simulants, just straight up fakes that they are. So the first question I have to ask is, what is it? That's the first thing you have to do when you're approaching your story. What are we talking about? What is it? Who are you? So when I look at this beautiful ring, I have to figure out why this ring costs $30.4 million. We talked about it a few, but this is the month of Ruby, July. So we talked about this. This is a $30.4 million ring, ruby and diamond. It's called the Sunrise Ruby. So as an appraiser, I have to say, what is it? Why does it cost that much money? There's a reason. And not only because I'm a storyteller, not only do I have to figure out what it costs and why it costs that much, but what is it about that person, whoever bought it, or that group of people that just said, you know what we should do, Charles? What, John? We should buy that ring. Or some woman said, baby, you know what I really want? What? I want that ring. Some of y'all, some ladies out here, some of y'all can feel me right now. I just want that ring. Baby, you want that ring? Yeah, I want that ring, baby. And depending on how that man is feeling about the woman that he loves or the man that he loves, that ring might have value. That ring might be a lower value than in comparison to the love that he has for his partner. So he buys it. I'm not lying. Isn't that what Richard Burton did with Elizabeth Taylor? He bought her a $33 million diamond and just thought it was okay. Like, here you go, baby. Oh, thank you, Richard. I love you. Yeah, okay. What? When you're appraising, you have to look at what that string of Oh God, I mean, just take a look at it. You guys know how I feel about pearls. Look at that. Not only we're talking about pearls. So it takes about, I don't know, 20,000 oysters, not 20, maybe 2,000 oysters to make one pearl. So not only do you have all those pearls, literally 5 strands of pearl, and they're symmetrical, and the variations of color, how long did it take to put that all together? That's why that's $7 million. Because those are natural pearls. And they had to match them all together, not to mention the diamond on the upper left-hand corner. Why is this watch, a Richard Mille, why is this a $1 million watch? $1 million. And there's a whole bunch of actors and actresses that have that watch, have his watch on their wrist. Why? Because of the value. They understand what it is. They understand what it is. And if you don't take the time to do that, you might make a mistake. Because you assume something. What is this? This looks like turquoise. But is it really? Or is this turquoise? Honestly, this is not turquoise. This is halite. Halite is a stone that's within the same class, and it's actually white. And because it's white, it can be colored any color you want. So they make it robin egg blue to make it look like this. This is the real turquoise. So in order to understand what you're looking at, you have to understand what it is. Those of you who've been with me on this show understand gem identification. It will change your life. It's a whole way you can approach your business, your love relationships, your kids, everything. Gem identification. What is something? And then once you figure that out, once you do that appraisal, and not only just other people, on yourself. On yourself first. Who are you? What do you manifest? One of the tests of turquoise is taking like some acetone. You don't want to do it in a place that really shows. Take some acetone and just rub it in a little small place. If the color comes off on the color, it's not turquoise. That's not what turquoise does. So once you figure what it is, once you figure what that is, then you can figure out what to do. And what happened to me really happened because of metals. This show happened because I began to understand metals on a whole completely different way. Quick story. I never really thought about metals. I mean, other than I know gold, I know silver, I know platinum. But the second time I went to France, before I started living there, I was walking down the street, myself and my wonderful manager in France, Catherine Sadi. We was walking down and we saw right down the Seine, about maybe half a mile from Notre Dame, there was this building, and it just caught my eye. This structure, and they had all kinds of security. They had a special event that you could see it all lined up, and then this silver object just caught my eye. When I got a little closer, and I had to talk to the guy, in fact, my phone say was terrible at that point, so I had to convince the guy, please, just let me see it. And he just felt sorry for me. I guess he looked me up and down in that French way and just said, d'accord, and he let me in. And what this tree is, it's sterling silver. It's a sterling silver tree put in the middle of this beautiful 18th century building. And I never got any closer to that. This was just using the telephoto, but look at it. And I remember thinking to myself, what was it about the metal? What was it about the metal that made him or her make that tree? And in that tree, the branches, if you see it, branches and leaves are pots and pans. All different kinds of pots and pans. And when you understand what cooking is to France, this is like the tree of life. This is literally the tree of life if you're in France or a whole lot of countries, but especially France, because France has a whole religious relationship with food. So this is the tree of life for them. Yeah. This is a metal. But I didn't really start thinking about metals, and this show didn't. I had always been thinking about it. As you see in my opening, I always say gemstones, precious metals. I always knew about metals, but it wasn't. I didn't get it. I didn't know what to talk about metals, how to talk about metals, other than gold, which is a whole different thing. First of all, you have to understand, when you begin to understand how special metals is, you have to understand that, and some of you already know this, that metals come from the Big Bang. And those of you who are more towards the whole evolution thing, no problem. God, one of the first things God made when he made the planet, those little sublines, when he was making Earth on whatever day that is, he made metals. When he made the universe, it's not just Earth, he made the universe. He made metals, because metals come from a tremendous, unbelievable explosion of a supernova. A supernova, for those of you who forgot your 7th grade and 8th grade science, a supernova is as when a star explodes. So even if you're not talking about the Big Bang, the thing is, all metals, platinum, gold, silver, to all those metals that are on the periodic table are made from this tremendous luminous explosion that created stars. And when a star explodes, the energy of that creates heavy elements like gold, like mercury, like silver. I knew about metals. I mean, my degree's in biology, chemistry, biochemistry. I know metals. Literally, this is the periodic table. There's 118. I know some of you are like, oh my God, not 8th grade science again. Yeah, there's 118 elements on the periodic table. The whole, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, male, female, whatever you are made up of this. The whole universe is made up on this. That tripped me out when I started teaching, when really realizing that I told my students, on this board, you're looking at the universe. No, we're not, Mr. Mixon. I said, yes, you are. Because everything the universe is made out of is on that board that we know of. And 94 of those 118 elements are metals. I knew about all the characteristics of a metal. The electrical conductivity, the luster, the durability, the malleability. How can you hammer it down? That is solid. It's a mineral. Some metals have magnetic properties. I knew all that. I know what metals, when people think about metals, this is what they think about. They think about palladium, they think about gold, they think about silver, they think about platinum. That's what they think about. The big four. To tell you how much of a part metals are in our lives, I looked it up. I did some research, and literally the average American uses 25 tons of metals, of minerals, each and every year, not day. No, I'm sorry. Let me back up. 25 tons in their lifetime. They use about 38,000 pounds each year. The average American, meaning that the things we have, our bottles, our I don't know, pins and things like this, our tops. This is the gold top. You ever see those commercials for the top that was like in Inception? This is the gold top. Metals. 25 tons lifetime, 38,000 pounds every year. The average American. In India, they only use about 4 tons a lifetime. So we are totally hooked on to metals. 50,000 pounds of metal within our lifetime. Metals. When you think about metals are so important that our prehistory is defined by metals. You got the Stone Age, that's when I was born, the Bronze Age, and then you have the Iron Age. The Iron Age, history changed because of metals. Metals go way back. Like, as soon as the caveman came out of the cave, as soon as the first man walked the savanna of Africa, the first thing he said was, hey, Charlie, yeah, what's this shiny thing? I don't know. Let's name it a metal. I don't know. But in the beginning, metals are a part of our lives. It is how we have developed as a species, metals. But I didn't really start understanding metals, what the spiritual relationship to metals until I started playing the game Petanque. This is Petanque. This is a Petanque bull, not a ball, not BALL. It's in Francais. It's a bull, BOULE. It's a bull. That's what it looks like. And it wasn't until I started really. Next month, I'm going back home, back to France, and I got invited to. I have the honor of playing on the team, the Petanque Bulls teams, like a whole regional thing. Everybody's going to be there, and of course, I'm the only American there, one, and the only African American there, two. So, like, everybody's waiting for me to go, and I'm so excited. So, as I was thinking about just everything about this game, I started just feeling the energy of it. I started to ask myself the question, why do I like this game so much? It's a really simple game. You throw these balls, as you see in the picture. Your object is to throw the ball as close to that red ball, which is called a cochonnet, which means little pig. In English, in England, they play it all over the world. In England, it's called the jack. Okay, and the jack is literally made out of wood. It's just a little wood, the ball. You can have it different colors. And the ball is either made up of stainless steel or carbon steel. Why do I love this game so much? What is the relationship that I have with this metal? When I play, when I hold that ball in my hand, it just felt like, and you guys know I lived in a Zen Buddhist monastery. I felt that energy, which I wasn't really feeling then, but now I understand. Just the energy of holding that in my hand, just the smoothness of it. And then I started thinking, why? As an appraisal, why? Why does this metal strike me like this? Why do people, in fact, this is one of the national sports in France. You can go anywhere in France, Southeast Asia, Madagascar, England. There's a whole bunch of countries that play this game. Why? This game, the Petanque itself, started in 1907 in Marseille, which is not that far from where it's more southeast. I'm southwest. But everywhere they play this game. It's just a ring, balls, cochonnet. That's it. Why? What is the relationship to metal? So when I was thinking about this show, I decided to name this show Petanque and our spiritual relationship with metals. Because this game has been around, like I said, in 1907, but the origins of the game go back to Greek and Roman days. And the town that I live in is a Roman town. So literally, when you talk about Petanque, not only does the town of Tele play modern day Petanque, but since Tele is not only just a Roman town, it was a Viking town. So the Vikings were there first, then the Romans came there, and now it's French. Obviously, the French took over, and then that's what they play. This ancient game first they used to use wood, then they used rocks, then they started using, they used rocks, then they used wood, and they used to put metal nails in it to give it substance, and then they invented the game of Petanque. Really because someone had rheumatism and they couldn't play the game the way the game used to be played. But there's a relationship. There's a spiritual relationship to metal. So which made me think, and this is, again, step back and look at what something is. So this is the Petanque ball. This is called a super inox. Super inox in Francais is basically stainless steel. This is my ball. This is my ball. All right, it's coming, it's shipping and stuff because got to be ready for this tournament. All right, but I do play and practice at these are the balls. This is my ball. And Again, periodic table. Periodic table. And if you remember the periodic table, you don't see steel on the periodic table because the steel is a metal, but it's not a metal. It's not an element. Steel is a combination of elements. So let's go back. An element, remember, write this down. If not for yourself, if you got kids and they're in school, an element is something that cannot be broken into anything else. An element is what it is, period. So what this ball is made out of is not one element. It's made out of a couple elements, several elements. So this ball is made out of stainless steel. So let's talk about steel, because a lot of people don't understand what steel is. Stainless steel. That's what the ball is made out of, stainless steel. But let's talk about steel. Steel is literally it's an alloy. Write that word down. Alloy. It's an alloy of iron and carbon, because this is the part that's going to blow your mind. At least it blew my mind when I really thought about it. Steel is an alloy of iron and carbon, which means that all the stuff that you see, all the buildings, think about what steel is. How many, the whole world has changed because of steel. China became China because of steel. I live in Chicago, where 15 minutes away, there used to be iron factories and steel factories, and those factories are gone because of China took over the market for steel. Steel, that's what it is. Steel. Not the coffee bean, steel. So let's go back. Steel is made up of iron and carbon. Where have I heard those elements before? Iron and carbon. Oh, I know. Peridot. Remember that? Those of you born this month, peridot is your birthstone. Peridot is your birthstone. And the thing that makes peridot is what? Iron. Remember we talked about it last week? Peridot is a idiochromatic gemstone, which means that the element that makes it the color is built in. Iron, just like steel. The element is a part of the structure of it. Then we talk about carbon. The same carbon that makes up a diamond is the same carbon that's in steel. So steel is an alloy of iron and carbon. Literally not even a whole lot of carbon. We're talking about 2%. Remember I was talking about a hint of an element that gives it a color. So just less than 2% of carbon is added to steel, added to iron. Iron is kind of brittle by itself, but when you add just a hint of carbon, you make steel. That's what steel is. Steel is an incredible metal. Steel is recyclable. Steel has unbelievable strength, durability. Let me say it again. Steel is recyclable. You can literally take steel and break it down and remake it over and use it again. Steel. Then let's talk about stainless steel. Remember? Stainless steel. What stainless steel is, stainless steel, wow. So, okay, stainless steel, there you go. Stainless steel is an alloy of iron and carbon. Like we said, stainless steel is the steel part is the iron and carbon. So we already talked about that. But now what you do with stainless steel is add a hint of chromium. Now, where have we heard chromium before, right? Where have we heard chromium? When we talk about gemstones, where do we hear about chromium? Oh, I know. Raise your hand if you know the answer. Yeah, right there. You're right. Chromium, right? Rubies. Remember? I used to say it all the time, right? Ruby, you take aluminum oxide Here's aluminum oxide. You can buy it by the bucket. Aluminum oxide, a metal, oxygen, non-metal. You add in a hint of chromium, just a hint of chromium, and you get stainless steel. The same. So think about it. The chromium, the same chromium that is in something as incredible as a ruby. This ruby, the only reason it has this color is because of the chromium that you added to it. Without that, it's not a ruby. In fact, we already know that ruby is what? Corundum, which means that it's a big class of gemstones. When you have aluminum oxide and you add chromium in it, you have a ruby. When you have aluminum oxide and you add anything else, titanium, iron, you get what? A sapphire. And depending on what else is in it, you get all the different colors. So the same chromium that you put in steel, in a gemstone, is the same chromium that's in steel. Which made me start thinking, wait a minute, hold on a second. If it's the same thing, then what's up? This is it. This is what stainless steel is. Iron, carbon with a hint of chromium. Just a hint, a little bit of chromium. Which made me think about, as I kept reading it, I kept saying alloy. And I said, wait a minute. I know what an alloy is. But when I thought about it, when I looked at the definition again, I said, oh my God, check this out. You know what an alloy is? Those of you who know, go ahead, sit down with somebody else who answered. You, right there. What's an alloy? You've heard about it. Alloys are all around us. 95% of the metals that we have in around us are alloys. So what's an alloy? An alloy is a mixture of chemical elements of which at least one is a metal. So you take a metal and you mix it up with something else. This is the mind-blowing part. Check this out. This is where science is going to be fun. When you understand this, oh my God. At least I think so. That's what an alloy is. And the thing that makes an alloy special is that an alloy will retain all of the properties of the metal. Whatever that, when you put it together, what you wind up with takes on all the properties of the metal that was in the original structure, plus whatever you added to it. And what makes it really crazy, this is the mind-blowing part, that the properties, whatever properties, even though the properties may differ from the pure metal, even though the properties may differ from the plain metal, they increase as a result of it all coming together. So here are the characteristics of metals. And when you make it into an alloy, when you take that pure metal and put it in, take that chemical mixture and put it in with a metal, it takes on those properties. You don't lose any properties. You enhance the properties. So now you're talking about increased strength and hardness. Increased strength and hardness. Iron is nothing. When you mix up iron with carbon, now you get steel. When you mix iron with carbon, now the hardness of it. We are all in buildings that are made out of steel. And you know what happens if you don't make the mixture up correctly is just go to China and look at how their cities are crumbling because of the way they made the steel wasn't right. Increased durability. It withstands the test of time. It is a synergistic reaction. An alloy is a synergistic reaction. And then when we come back, I'm going to tell you how that relates to you. See you on the other side.
Here's a gem bit. Gentlemen, the next time you buy your woman a piece of fine jewelry, don't tell her you got it from Jared. Tell her where it really comes from. Look her straight in her eyes and let her know, baby, I got you a piece of jewelry that came from the beginning of the universe, because you'd be telling her the truth. Gold, platinum, silver comes from outer space. You don't have to thank me. Just let me know what happens. Discover the value of your story.
I'm serious about that. Think about it. Every piece of jewelry that you have on your possession, your earrings, your necklace, if it's made out of any metal, but in particular, if it's made out of gold, silver, platinum, it comes from out of space. It literally comes from the beginning of the universe. And going back to what we were talking about with alloys, if an alloy, this is not my definition, that's their definition. This is the definition of an alloy. If an alloy, literally, if you're taking an alloy, that a chemical mixture, which has one of those mixtures have to be a metal. It has to be a metal. That mixture comes together and it enhances, not only does it enhance it, but it also brings on properties that the original metal may not even have. It takes on the properties that have. Any of you guys have a 14 karat, 18 karat, 10 karat gold ring? 14 karat gold is 58% pure gold. The rest is another metal. It's an alloy, which gives it more strength, because 24 karat gold is way too soft. Even though my friends and family in India, they use a lot of 24 karat gold, but for the most part, most of us here in America, we use 14 karat gold, 18 karat gold, maybe 22 karat gold. It increases the strength. 18 karat gold is 75% gold. The other 25%, it's another metal. And it takes on those properties. And then, of course, 24 karat gold is pure gold. It's very soft. It's very soft. So how does this relate to you? Think about it. It's a synergistic reaction, meaning it increases, it comes together. It comes together. So imagine, here is the periodic table. And you literally can take one of these elements, mix it up with the metal, and again, 94%. So 94 of the 118 elements on this table are metals. Look at the colors. Alkaline metals, alkaline earth metals, transition metals. These are all the elements that give gemstones their power. These are the transition elements, the coloring elements that give a gemstone's power. So if you believe, this is the part. Every week I've been talking to you about, at least certainly the last few weeks, I've been talking to you about the metaphysical properties of gemstones, right? I told you that peridot is a gemstone of wealth and prosperity. That using peridot, wearing peridot, enhances your senses, enhances your sense of communication. That's what peridot does. But now extrapolate. If that is true for peridot, if that is true for any of the gemstones that we talk about on this show, if you believe that, let me just go back and just let you guys drool for a second. Yeah. If you believe that this gemstone has certain powers for you, you bought this because you believe that this ruby has a certain level of certain power. You believe that this aquamarine is a calming stone. because it reminds you of water. If you believe that tourmaline, chrome tourmaline, if you believe the power of this, and tourmaline comes in a variety of colors, and each color manifests a different type of metaphysical energy. If you believe that, amethyst gives you a certain sense of yourself. That is your girl. That's my favorite color. If you believe that and you understand that the thing that makes that color the color it is iron. It's a chemical. It's an iron that's in that gives it that color. If topaz. If topaz is your gemstone, you're born in November. Topaz, this is imperial topaz. If you believe in the metaphysical properties of that gemstone, then whether it's cut, whether it's polished, or whether it's natural, if you believe that citrine is a gemstone that will increase your communication skills because of what's in it, and if you take back and just look at what citrine is, what is the thing that gives citrine its color? And that color comes from a metal, then you have got to understand what metals are. If you believe in amethyst, you have to understand the same properties that exist for amethyst exist for metals. The same properties that exist for a pearl. What is a pearl? Calcium carbonate. That's a pearl. That's a pearl. And the different colors come from the different types of elements that are in that pearl that gives it, and the way the light reflects from it. If you believe that, then you have to understand metals. Then this ball is no different than those gemstones. None. In fact, to be honest with you, the metals have even more power than what you go, because of what metals can do. Metals, remember, what are the three qualities of what a gemstone is? A gemstone has to be rare. Most metals are rare. Aluminum is extremely rare. Aluminum is extremely abundant, but aluminum is hard to get. It's hard to get aluminum. A gemstone has to be beautiful. Well, we see how beautiful gold is. We know how beautiful gold is. The whole history of mankind revolves around gold. I'm going to have a whole separate show just on gold, because gold is, I can do weeks and weeks of just talks about gold, what gold has done throughout the whole history of mankind. But that's what it is. That's what I'm holding in my hand. Think about it. What am I holding? I'm holding a metal. I'm holding a stainless steel ball. Because it's a metal, this means that at the beginning, billions of years ago, this metal was part of the beginnings of the universe. Let me say it again, because this is not like something I made up. That this metal ball, stainless steel ball, is made up of an element, a metal that started from the beginning of the universe. Not a mine. That's where you found it. Where it comes from is out of space. It's the universe. And then you mix this ball up, the iron and the carbon that's in this ball, and then you mix this ball up with chromium, the same element that goes into your ruby. You know that $30 million ruby? Yeah, that chromium. That chromium is in this ball. So when I'm holding this ball in my hand, when I'm throwing, the ball is right here. It's up here in space. It's right here. You can see it. When I'm throwing this ball, that's the energy that I feel. The same energy that we talk about, we feel when we wear a gemstone on our fingers, on our ear. That same power has to relate to this. Has to. It has to. There's no such thing as when you look at the periodic table, this is my crew. This is my crew. All right. When you look at the periodic, let me go back. When you look at the periodic table, There's not two periodic tables. There's not one for humans and then there's one for everything else. There's 118 elements in the periodic table. And those elements can be configured in non-living things or organic things. That's what those things could be put together. Periodic table. So therefore, it's not like, well, it's chromium and it only works one way. No. Chromium does, it's an element, it's an atom. It does what it does. It does what it does. So therefore, the beauty of what we're talking about is being able to understand that those same parameters that fit for a gemstones, those same parameters fit for a bull, right? You increase the carbon, now you have carbon steel. You have carbon steel, which is a little softer. It's a little softer. So a person who plays with carbon steel is a different kind of player. And what I'm saying is those same energies that we all talk about, or many of us talk about getting from a gemstone, that's the relationship we have with metals. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. Now, here's the part. Imagine, since we like always kind of giving ourselves names or comparing our relationships or who we are as gemstones, imagine your marriage being an alloy. Imagine your marriage being an alloy. Think about what an alloy is. To a mixture of chemicals. One of them have to be a metal. It could be more than one. When you put those two metals together, plus that other things that's in it, it not only comes together, but it comes together in a synergistic way where now that resulting metal, that metal that you now have in your hand, that you're working with, that you're hammering, that you're building things with, that metal has now increased durability, increased strength, increased hardness. The electric, when you add chromium to something, you've increased the electrical conductivity. Those of you who buy those expensive headsets, what do you think that makes them so expensive? It's the fact that that metal, gold, even silver is the most highly conductive metal. They just don't use metal, even more so than copper. They just don't use silver that much because it's expensive to make. It's more expensive than copper. Copper is everywhere. Okay, in fact, silver is normally found with copper. But if that's the energy that we're putting into our electronics, that's the energy that's in this iPad, those gemstones, those minerals, those metals are in this iPad, which empowers that. And if we're saying that 25 tons, we're using so much metals, 25 tons in our lifetime, how does that relate to us? You can't deny the same power. You can't deny metals any less power than you can do gemstones. When I was talking to Dr. Santi was a guest here, and Dr. Santi is, oh my God, it's like talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi, as far as Indian culture. Dr. Santi told me that when you're an Indian child, the first thing you got to do, like 3 hours later, your ears are pierced. She told me that Indian women wear silver rings on their feet that they keep on forever. They never take it off. And that's when I started thinking, wait a minute. Hold on a second. The lights started flashing then a few weeks ago, but then it wasn't until I was sitting there holding this ball in my hand and just kind of playing with it and thinking about how I position my body, what it feels like. And when I make the shots, it just feels like it's like a zone. It's Zen. I can literally feel the ground beneath me. I can feel the energy from my feet coming up through my arms because literally Petanque is just it's an arm game. It's literally it's a fulcrum. It's a pendulum, not a fulcrum. It's a pendulum where you're throwing it. And there has to be a connection between your arm, your body, your hands, your fingers, the ball as the ball is traveling through the air. And then the ball has to hit the ground. And petanque is different. We're not talking about bocce ball. We're talking about petanque. Petanque is different. It's a different kind of game because not only do you have to play the person that not only do you have to play yourself, you also have to play the person that you're playing against, and you have to play the terrain. So literally, the whole thing is metaphysics. The whole game is metaphysics because there's the energy of the earth. The rocks have their own molecular structure. Then you have this ball traveling through the medium of air, elements. Just because you don't see them don't mean they don't exist. Then that ball has to hit the ground, and depending on how you threw it, depending on the way you toss that ball forward, then that ball is going to land in a certain way. That ball is going to react in a certain way, and you don't worry about the ball. Why? Because it's made out of stainless steel. Imagine having a partner like that. Imagine having a friend like that in your life. Imagine having a person, male or female, in your life where where together you're more durable. Together, you can resist corrosion. That's what chromium's used for. Chromium, that's what stainless. It's not that it can never rust. It resists corrosion. How about you taking the elements inside of yourself and seeing what elements inside of you can resist corrosion? The haters, that's corrosion. The people that tell you that you can't do something again, that's corrosion. And what you have to do is find those same elements within inside yourself to make yourself an alloy. Oh yeah, you're going to be thinking about this all day long. An alloy. Every metal when you get into your car, that's an alloy. When that frying pan that you cooking up, that's not straight metal. That's an alloy. That metal, that pan, you turn that temperature up. You got a teenage kid and turn it up and they think it's higher. If the flame is higher, then it cooks faster. They don't think about the burning. But you understand. Because it's the metal. You understand that heat, thermal conductivity. That's what metals do. Gemstones don't do that. Not on that level. So gemstones, if you understand that gemstones have metaphysical powers because of and if you understand, if you buy in that, then you have to buy into what a metal is. You have to buy into metal. This is not the most beautiful thing about what I'm discovering about gemology. What I used to think was hocus pocus, metaphysics. No, it's not. It's real. I just had to explain it and see it in such a way where I understood it on a scientific level. I understood it on a scientific level. And if you understand how it relates to in the metal, then it's an easy jump to understand what it can do for you. The bonding powers. This is telebolts. This is telebolts. These are the guys. Here you go. You got you got Marco. Marco is champion of the world. Okay? Champion of the world. All right? Hey, this is Hugo. This is Hugo. This is Renault. This is Jean-Marc. This is Jean-Marc, everybody's name Jean, okay? And this is the French assassin. This is Terry. This is the group. And we're all bounded together by this ball. So the same chemical, the same metaphysical things that is in a gemstone that brings people together are the same people, are the same elements that brought us together, that took somebody from Chicago, Illinois, via New York City, came to this strange little tiny town. I'm talking about like 600 people in the whole town. And they invited me in. This is when I first was presented with my Petanque balls. This was the crew. This is the crew. Jean-Marc, who's the assistant mayor of the town. Hugo is Renault's son. Yeah. When we play together, me, Hugo, and Marco, we are Black Power. There's not a whole lot of black people there, so this is it. This is our group. This is our group. I know there's a whole lot of black people here, I know. But this is our group. This is what binds us together. And once I started understanding what this ball means, what this sport means, why it touches so many people's lives. Yeah, with Francois is right here. This is Francois. This is my brother. When Francois is a big guy. Francois is very French and very, his hands are like this big. He's just, and when I first saw Francois, I was just like, oh my God, who is this guy? He's just like, oh. And through our sport, and everybody here is an excellent, male or female, excellent player. I'm just trying to catch up. But Francois, who is literally a champion in that region, what brought us together was the medal, was the understanding of this ball. And I watched him and he watched me. And we found out that his father was my mother. His father told him some of the horrible things that my mother told me, and we survived. Not only did we survive, we are thriving. And once we found that through this medal that's been around thousands and thousands and thousands of years, we're about the same age. And in fact, we are the same age. But through this medal, we found brotherhood. We found peace. That's what happens when you begin to discover your story. That's what happens when something that you see every day that you don't really think about, like a medal, like that Damascus steel. Yeah, there's all kinds. Thanks, Charlotte. There's all different kinds of steel. And what are we talking about? We're talking about combinations and alloy. Whatever Damascus steel is made out of, it's an alloy to something else. That's what it is. It's a process. Damascus steel was supposed to be steel, or like the steel of samurai swords. The samurai sword, I think it was I forgot the person's name who made like one of the best samurai swords that could just cut through anything. That's what it is. It's an alloy. This is us. This is the group. Thank you, Barbara. So this is the balls that they presented me. That this is the bonding thing between how elements can lead into gemstones, can lead into metals, and they lead into a relationship between people. So your homework assignment is to find out two things. One, think about yourself as a metal. Think of yourself, what kind of metal would you be? Would you be aluminum, where it has a high luster, but a serious tensile strength? Or would you be tungsten? Tungsten is an extremely durable, dense metal. That's why a lot of men's rings are made out of tungsten. Are you platinum? Platinum is a beautiful gem, a beautiful metal, but to work with platinum has a seriously high melting point. So if you're going to work with platinum, you gotta know that you're gonna be tested, because the temperature that it takes to work with platinum is seriously high. I think like 3,000, 4,000, no, like 3,500 degrees. Yeah, Fahrenheit. Find out what kind of metal you are, and then find out who's your alloy. Who's the person that you mixed up with, that you are together with? Is that person, are you making an alloy with that person? Are you together? Are the things that you're producing together enhancing what you want to do, what you both want to do? Are you in a relationship where both of your powers are being augmented? Both of your powers are being respected. Both of your powers are being increased by you coming together. And if not, then that alloy, that doesn't work. Every alloy doesn't work. Every alloy doesn't work. And some alloys are too expensive. So figure out who you are. Figure out how that comes together. But hopefully today will be the last day. Today will be the first day, let me say it positively, that you begin to understand the relationship between people and metals. And if you get a chance to play this game called Petanque, if you get a chance, I'm going to bring it here to you. It's already here in the United States. I'm going to really bring it to Chicago, bring it in our community, because our kids need to understand this. This is life. This is life, because the other thing, Petanque, is you can throw the ball and someone can just hit your ball and just knock you completely. That's what Terry does, knock you completely out of the court. That's life. That's what this game is about. This is life. And so when you think about how this game is life, and when you think about what this game, the primary instrument of this game is this ball, and you think about how this ball literally came from the origins of the universe, then you understand how much more powerful this game is. So I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you got something out of today. My name, again, is Barry B. Mixon. I am a Gemmological Storyteller. And I hope that you take the time, at some point in your day, this very hot day, you're sitting in the air conditioner, take the time to think about and discover the value of your story. So until next week I'm going to have on, I know I'm going to next week. Next week's going to be myself and my boy, Charlie Jones. We're going to talk about creating magic, still talking about the continuation of the gauntlet. The gauntlet. I think we're going to be doing the soul stone, so you don't want to miss out on that. But until next week, au revoir, à te teller, voila.
Here's a gem bit. Ladies, the next time your man promises you the moon and the stars, don't roll your eyes. Give him an address. Tiffany's, Cartier, Bulgari, even Walmart. There are so many locations that they have the remnants of stars and moons and suns. Let him have an address and then see what he does. I'm going to get so much hate mail over this. Discover the value of your story.